I think tonight is going to be a fabulous debate. It's going to be a focused debate and a well thought out debate. We've got a well balanced panel, a range of Republican, Unionist opinion and also economic opinion and political commentators. So I think that this debate marks like a really landmark step in the whole issue, in the whole debate on Irish unity, because our panel is so broad. I think it's fantastic that so many people have turned up to listen to the debate and to participate. And I think that this shows clearly that the topic of Uniting Ireland is a valid issue and a live issue, and that this is exactly the right time to start thinking about and planning for a border poll. So I'm looking forward to all the contributions from our panel, and I'm actually looking forward to see what kind of questions are raised as the night goes ahead. So I think it'll be a great night.
Sinn Féin is for peaceful and democratic change. We believe that it is best to plan and to maximise agreement regarding the future of this island. As an Irish Republican, I believe that a united Ireland will best serve the economic, social and cultural interests of all our people. As a Democrat, I believe that the people should have the right to govern themselves, free from oversight from Westminster. There is at present a natural draw towards the greater integration of services, structures and bodies on an all-Ireland basis in order to deliver quality services and economies of scale. And I'm encouraged that many unionists support the development of these types of structures on the basis that they are mutually beneficial. Greater North-South cooperation is not a threat. Further administrative changes need to take place alongside important social, economic and cultural change. These all point towards the realisation of a new, agreed, united Ireland to the benefit of all its citizens.
The Chair was absolutely right. We were going to mention the subvention. £10.5 billion per year. That is what our fellow countrymen across our United Kingdom give to Northern Ireland each year. And of course, Sinn Féin will come back and go, well, the figures aren't exactly right, we're not sure, it could be £1 billion either way, it might not be as much as that. Either way, it's an awful lot of money. Think about the difference that that would make. What does it make to your schools, to your hospitals, to your infrastructure? You cannot, and it is just a land of unrealism to say that you would go down this road. This is not what we should be talking about or indeed debating. We are in a competitive global economy. I recognise that we need good relations, and I keep saying to my friends in Sinn Féin, you have your new Ireland. This is what your new Ireland looks like. A Northern Ireland economy with and Northern Ireland with a devolved administration in Stormont, and a Republic of Ireland. And if those two entities have failed so much in the last 100 years, then let's go back to what was 100 years before that. I mean, the Irish economy, when it needed bailed out, what is the phrase that George Osborne used was a friend in need, and stepped up to the plate and give money to the bailout to help out the Irish economy. Because relations now between... Yes.
Take a point.
Okay.
You are aware that he wasn't bailing out Ireland, he was bailing out its creditors, who are banks, who are mainly people like architects.
And what was going to happen to Ireland? What was going to be the outcome if he didn't do that? What was going to be the alternative of Ireland not getting the bailout? I hear some of this. I hear some of this sort of romantic ideals about what an Irish Republic might look like and this unity across Ireland. What we need here is good relationships north and south. We need good relationships east and west. We need to be working in partnership. Sinn Féin have to show that they can make Northern Ireland work. They have to even learn to say the name of the place. And they have to show that they can make it work. That they can make Northern Ireland work for the good of everyone here before they can prove to the people and the electorate in the Republic of Ireland that they're actually fit for government down south. Ireland.
It's very rare in economics you get an experiment. And we've had an experiment. And it's lasted almost, well, 90 odd years, getting on for a century, and about what works in economics. And when there was partition, this part of Ireland was extremely prosperous. Living standards were not only much higher than the rest of Ireland, and including what's now part of the north, but actually on average higher than Britain. And the living standards of the south were about 40% of what they were in the north. And then we had partition. And the result has been that the living standards in the south, for all its faults, I would be happy to talk about those, but for all its faults, are about 20 to 25% higher than this part of the world. And that's not an accident.
Where on earth do you get a statistic like that from, in terms of every single thing that normal people need? Higher unemployment, higher youth unemployment, etc., etc.
Well, actually, the level of underemployment and the employment participation rate is lower here than it is in the south. Living standards based on per capita GDP and average earnings are far higher. In real terms, PPP adjusted in the south than they are here. And there's no denying, no one can deny that. Well, that's the difficulty, you see, because when confronted with the facts, people don't want to hear them.
So friendly neighbours, important trading partners, cooperating for the benefit of all our citizens. Northern Ireland, safe and secure in the Union, is trading more with the Republic of Ireland than any other country in the world, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think for those of us who went out and campaigned for the Belfast Agreement, as I proudly did, this is an example of the type of cooperation on a cross-border basis that puts bread on the table, as opposed to the other sectarian divisions that we've seen. So there's economic cooperation on both sides of the border. 2.2 billion of Northern Ireland exports to the Republic in 2013, supporting thousands of jobs in the economy here. So in conclusion, there are several more important economic facts that renders the motion as crazy economics. The 10 billion subvention has been mentioned, but let's drill down to what that actually means. In today's exchange rate, that's roughly 12,000 million euros. There's 2 million Irish taxpayers. That's 6,000 euros for every single taxpayer. So by the way, would you just set up a wee direct debit, 500 euros a month from every single taxpayer in the Republic of Ireland to fund each one of your and my standard of living? It isn't going to happen. So,
shouldn't we aspire to have sovereignty over the product of our collective effort, to share in the rewards generated by that effort? What we have today on this island are 2 states in which the majority of people living there do not have sovereignty. With respect to the north of Ireland, real power resides in London, and we are subject to a political relationship which many have been encouraged to believe is one where we are the dependent party and should be thankful for whatever we get. We have got ourselves into a situation where we have very little economic autonomy. Our tax receipts are gathered up by the UK government, and an allocation of funds is made by it which we are told substantially exceeds that which we generate. But we don't know what that differential is, and we don't know where we would have scope to increase our revenues. What we do know, of course, is that the funds which are transferred from London are the focus of cuts over which we have no control. So we just accept that the interests which matter are those of the elite class in London and the southeast of England, who determine negotiating policy on farming and fishing at EU level, who determine the shape of our foreign relations, who support vested interests, who have no concern for the future of Belfast, Omagh, Antrim, Newry, Enniskillen, etc. I propose an Ireland not ruled by elites, an Ireland in which the interests of individual citizens align with those of their community, their council areas, their national government. I believe that the greed instinct in humans can become voracious if it is not controlled. And I believe that in the UK we are subject to a political system which actively allows greed to be free and which celebrates it. The British bank collapse happened on the scale that it did because the English elite so compromised its system of oversight. The so-called free market in the UK is in fact controlled by a super-advantaged elite who seek to reinforce their advantage to the detriment of the rest of us. And does Northern Ireland feature in their calculations? I propose no, it doesn't. Already they are rationalising the dilution of their economic ties to this part of their jurisdiction under the banner of necessary cuts.
I've noted as well, in terms of how we measure applause, that John, Mark and I have about maybe between 33 and 40 supporters here this evening, so we are expecting to lose. But it doesn't actually matter. Because the brutal reality, and I can understand you're not going to like this, but the brutal reality is that losing this motion doesn't matter, because there isn't in reality going to be a United Ireland anytime soon anyway. It's not a demographic thing, it's simple. When you look at the surveys, when you look at the opinion polls, when you question people very closely, particularly in the Northern Ireland Life and Times surveys, even people are beginning to now re-identify themselves as Northern Irish rather than United Irish and so on. It's quite clear that it isn't John, Mark and myself you need to convince. It isn't the 33 or 40 pro-union people in here you need to convince. If Sinn Féin and republicanism wants to actually win the United Ireland battle, you have to convince a very considerable section of your own natural base, which you're not doing at the minute. Now, I can understand the natural pull of togetherness, the wanting to be together. There is a sense in that. I can understand why those who are naturally Irish nationalists want to see their country brought together again, want to see their people brought together again. That matters to them. It's part of their psychology, it's part of their romanticism, it's part of their everyday political realities. It's what they want. But equally, living in Northern Ireland, you have people like me. Our pool is not from Dublin, it's from London. For all the difficulties that, being administered by London has brought us over the years. It's not easy also always being a unionist, but that's still where our natural pool is. And you're still going to have that problem. And even in Scotland, where you have David Cameron, David Miliband, and Mick Clegg, making a similar appeal, the better together argument, which is a mirror image of the argument that you three have been making, that somehow we're better together. That isn't the reality, because there's a reality in terms of the economic debate, and I'm always mindful where it said, I think it was Voltaire said, when you have two economists in a room, you will have at least 7 different theories to back whatever position they choose at any one time. But even if every single one of you who's here tonight to back a Sinn Féin, this motion, to back the whole idea of United Ireland, even if every single one of you secretly thought, do you know something? The arguments don't stack up. The economics don't stack up. The figures don't stack up. You're still going to vote for United Ireland. And it's the same probably for those who come from the pro-union background. No matter if we thought, actually, it does make some sort of sense. I could see a new Ireland, maybe it would work. Our natural pull will still take us to the Union. But if you want to sell the reality of a United Ireland, not simply to those of us from a pro-union background, but if you want to sell the reality of a United Ireland to tens of thousands of middle-class, small r, small n Republican nationalists, then you have to prove what the economic realities of that country would look like. There isn't a blueprint. I haven't seen a political blueprint, a party blueprint, an economist blueprint for this new United Ireland. And if we're going to have a serious debate, then rather than just say, we need it, what we need to see more than anything, we need to see what this new United Ireland is going to look like before being asked to make a decision on it. Thank you.
Caitriona, Ruane, a great start to a very interesting debate.
Who's my Lana Hebra? You're absolutely right. That was fantastic. But what really struck me was the number of young, articulate people at this debate. They'd want this debate, and Sinn Féin need to ensure that this continues. Also, I think it was really good having a very respectful debate with the unionist representatives, and I think we need more of that. We need to listen to each other, understand each other, but also understand that we are entitled to viewpoints. I want a united Ireland. I want equality. I don't believe in a monarchy. You can have equality. I want to see a real republic, not a 26 county one. And I think you heard some very interesting debates here today. But bring on the border poll. If the British government claim that the North isn't capable, or Ireland isn't capable of standing on its own 2 feet, open up their books. What are they afraid? What are they hiding? And I think that for me is what came out of here today.
We need to do more of this sort of thing. I mean, we didn't agree. I think, as Alex said, we didn't expect to storm the victory on it. But we had a good debate carried out in a good spirit of generosity, as I've often called for, that our politics needs. We actually started. It was interesting when you listen to some of the questions and commentary that we, meshed in amongst the straight unionist versus Irish unity debate, whatever, was issues about equality and poverty and people, and suddenly, even for Alex, Mark and I, breaking down some of the myths that political unionism, we're happy to get up and admit it has many failings. It is not always good at tackling issues on marriage equality, on a range of issues. The argument about unity was based on a 10.5 billion subvention. That how would you pay for this new Ireland do you want? My argument always to Sinn Féin is, you have your new Ireland, this is what it looks like. But it really encouraging and uplifting, and look, I think most people are going home, at least it was carried out in a good-natured way and very enjoyable.
Michael, a very stimulating debate. Did you think it actually managed to address any of the real issues?
I think it did, and I think it was tremendous on the part of the people that don't support the economics or the economic case for United Ireland, that they are willing to engage in that debate, because that's what it really takes. It takes a discussion and it takes a debate. I thought it did deal with the issues. It's difficult in a forum like this to deal with them in any depth, but insofar as it's possible, I think on both sides people put forward their arguments very strongly. I think the key to it is prosperity. Are you actually going to be better off than you are being in a united Ireland? And I think the history of what's happened in the South shows that you will. In fact, all ex-colonies are all much, much better off than they were as colonies, and that's because if you trade with the rest of the world, you become more prosperous.
I thought it was brilliant. It was great to see so many young people here. I think there was about 200 or 300, and I think it was a very important and stimulating debate. But fundamentally, I still think the case for the union is an unequivocal one, and I think that the arguments of the proposition that a united Ireland would be beneficial from an economic perspective didn't wash.
It is the beginning, because the challenge is to build a new 21st century state. And my view is this is going to be probably years in the making. I think what we should be looking at is a new Ireland Forum 2, where we look at the technical challenges, and there are many, in building a 21st century state. What's its constitution going to be? What's its foreign relations policy? How will it finance itself? But the challenge, I think, for the north of Ireland is that the United Kingdom structure itself, in my view, is dissolving. And the Scots have seen that it wasn't in their interest to stay within the UK system, because power and advantage is concentrated in London and the South East. That's an enormous problem with this structure. The other problem is it's not a republic. A Republic of Britain might be a different thing. And the assumption that somehow we'll be isolated from that, of course we won't. We will have relations. We have historic relations, familial relations, economic relations. But it's in our interest to work together on this island. That's what we need to be doing.
Well, I think it's fabulous, where we are now. You can actually bring 200 university students to have a debate on something like this on a Thursday night. And you shouldn't knock it. Okay, we knew we were losing the motion. So what? It's the very fact that they came out to take part in that debate. I think that's extraordinary.
In terms of some of the points that maybe your political opponents were making, anything have resonance or food for thought for you, or had you heard it all before?
I think I've heard it all before, and they've heard it all before. I think it's the nature of this sort of debate to some extent. What disappointed me slightly was that some of the younger audience who would be supporting the motion didn't really challenge Caitriona and the others about to say, look, I'm 20, what would a United Ireland mean for me in terms of employment, in terms of my career, in terms of just where I'm going to go and so on? How would it affect me? I'm surprised they didn't ask those questions, and I'm also slightly surprised that nobody pushed them on why they think a United Ireland would have an entirely different type of government. It's bound to be a right-of-centre Conservative government pursuing much the same policies that both the Brits have been pursuing and the government down south is pursuing now. There's probably no big change there either, so if they're expecting some huge big sense of achievement, it's not going to come, but nobody asked that.
I think it was brilliant to have so many young people in one room having that all-important debate on Irish unity with real facts and figures on economics and how United Ireland would benefit us and our future. So.
I do think that it was so motivating even walking in, and as well as that too, so many young women as well asking questions and putting their points across.
What does it say about Republican activism in Queen's that you were able to pull such an event off tonight?
I think it says an awful lot, and I mean the pictures you'll see, say a picture speaks 1,000 words. The amount of people here for such quite a small Cumann, the amount of work that was put into this really paid off, and it shows in the amount of people, young people especially, that were here tonight. After
the event, do you think you'll have much more discussion with your unionist colleagues, classmates, etc. on this debate?
I think it's actually broken down a lot of barriers, because obviously the whole border poll thing has been going on for a wee bit now, but this is actually sort of the first step towards the debate being opened up. I think there'll be plenty more, and I think we need plenty more discussions like this, and I thought it was brilliant.
Well, I had a really good time at tonight's debate. I thought it was very open, it was very honest. There was fabulous attendance, like you said, from a lot of young people. I thought the tone was very positive, and I thought that both sides gave a decent account of their position.
In terms of some of the points maybe your opposition would have made, anything that kind of give any resonance, that food for thought?
Well, look, I think the best argument in favour of United Ireland is service duplication, and I think there's definitely an argument there, but as I would say, better North-South cooperation has reduced that argument. Equally, the best argument in favour of the union is the fact that certainly in the medium term the Republic of Ireland can't afford to give the same level of service provision that Northern Ireland currently enjoys. Like, there is an estimated £10.5 billion deficit annually in Northern Ireland. Now, I don't wish to be in any way derogatory to my Republican opposition here, but with the fiscal controls that the Republic of Ireland is currently under, in the short term an extra £10.5 billion of debt per year isn't going to be allowed. So I would like to hear real alternatives. I would like to hear what sort of services in the Republic of Ireland or in Northern Ireland would be cut to get the figures closer together. I would like honesty on that particular point, and that's one thing I didn't get tonight. Caitriona Ruane did mention that the difference would be made up through progressive taxation, and I welcome that bit of honesty, but I didn't feel that a full case for that 10.5 billion was made.
I found the quality debate to be very, very good, and there was a lot of intervention from the crowd, and it was good intervention. At these debates, there's a tendency just to go back to the trenches somewhat. It was great to see some of the younger people putting forward figures, putting forward really tricky questions to the candidates. I think they handled it all very well.
And in terms of where the debate goes after this, well, I mean, will you be discussing with your classmates this sort of thing after this debate?
I think we definitely will. I mean, like Chris has already mentioned, it was great to see so many people engaged, and I think it's one of the issues that is constantly brought up in the question over Northern Ireland, and yet people seem on occasion not to have the facts and the figures there. So it'll be great to be able to actually delve into a bit of detail on the issue and actually discuss it in more.
Anything said from the opposition which was made you have to think again?
Not really, no. I still think that the £10 billion that we get from the block grant overrides everything. I mean, they questioned what the size of the block grant, if it was 8 million, if it was 10 million. To me, it doesn't matter. 8 million is enough to stay a union. 12 million is enough. That was the only thing that I thought was of real, significant importance.
We now come to what some of you will believe is the most important part of the evening, and some of you may think is the most pointless part of the evening. Would all those in favour of the motion that a United Ireland would make economic sense say aye? Aye. Would all those opposed to the motion that United Ireland make economic sense say nay?
Nay!
Shauna, as the chairperson of this event tonight, you must be absolutely delighted not only with attendance but quality of debate.
Absolutely. There was a great crowd, very, very good. The Twitter feed was eventful, not to say the least, but the panellists were great, very informed discussion, so it's great to see a lot of students in the stand as well, so it's a big success for Queen Sinn Féin. We had a big social media presence coming up to the event, so we promoted a lot and we're going out doing a lot of canvas. But after this there'll be a lot of talk. There's the Gown, the Queen's newspaper, we're covering it with different journalists and stuff right here, so it's very good. It's a great success for Queen's. In the past, you see Queen Sinn Féin, there wasn't enough support around Queen's and within the university to pull off an event like this, but it just goes to show you, 200 plus people here in the crowd tonight. We've dozens of activists, putting in the work to pull off an event like this, so it's great, and we're going from strength to strength every year, and it's great to see a lot of young people, and it'll definitely the buzz will spread around Queen, and it's going to be big for a couple of months to come.